How's it going, Katie?
I was trying to think of something clever to say back to you, and then my brain just shut down for a second.
So you want to know what's going on in the Maryland neck of the woods?
I do.
It has to do with liquor laws, so kind of interesting. There's currently a bill that is trying to go through the Senate in Maryland, like the state Senate, to allow grocery stores to sell wine and beer.
Ooh.
In Maryland. Yes.
Which currently they do not.
Yes. There are some weird old-timey exceptions. So in some parts of Maryland, you might find a grocery store that sells beer, but for the most part in the state of Maryland, there's no statewide law that allows for beer and wine to be sold in grocery stores, which I saw apparently we are one of 4 states that doesn't allow grocery stores or other retailers to sell beer, wine, or liquor.
Yeah, to sell anything.
Yeah, but I thought that was interesting because apparently it's Maryland, Delaware, Alaska, and Rhode Island are the 4 states. Which I thought was fascinating because I thought Pennsylvania didn't allow it. But maybe because it's like a county by county designation.
I was going to say they're so hyper localized in the way they manage those. It could be a lot of different things.
Yeah, true. Yeah, because currently you have to go to a liquor store to get any kind of alcohol.
Right. Which generally you find right next to the grocery store.
I mean, yes.
Yeah. Which makes sense.
Yes.
Yes.
But I feel like I have a different opinion about this than other people because a lot of people are like, I am tired of going to a separate store to get a bottle of wine. I want to be able to buy wine in the grocery store. Yeah. And so they are in support of this bill. But I kind of feel like, but why though? Just go to an alcohol store if you need alcohol and go to a grocery store if you need a grocery. And then you don't have to worry about taking shelf space away from food to have beer, or kids that are in the grocery store.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you won't have to train all of your grocery store cashiers to ID people.
Oh, that's a good point too. And I don't know if you guys have cashiers who are under 18 or 21, but I know that there's laws about that too, about who can actually sell alcohol. And the act of ringing it up is considered selling.
Yeah.
If a cashier's underage, they have to go and get like an older person to ring it up.
Yeah, exactly. And now with all the self-checkouts and stuff in grocery stores.
Right.
And especially a lot of Maryland is very urban. And so I feel like if you're going to start letting grocery stores sell beer and wine, it's not like they can expand the footprint of their store. So where are they putting it? They're probably going to take away food space.
Right. But how much money does that bring in for them? I wonder, what are the profit margins like on beer and wine compared to food?
I'm sure very high, which is why they would rather sell liquor than food, which I feel like is problematic.
Yes. Yeah. I think that's a fair point. I mean, I'm not opposed to it being separate like that. Like you said, I think it's like, I don't know, if that's what you need, go to that store for that thing.
Yeah. It's not like there's a lack of liquor stores.
Yeah.
I feel like there's definitely more liquor stores than grocery stores.
Yeah. Interesting. Yep. Well, I'll be interested to hear if it goes through or not.
We'll see. We'll see if it does. But that's the latest liquor law news.
I'd be also interested to know if that applies to big box stores like Costco.
Yeah.
Because it does.
It does. Yeah.
So like your Costco's can't sell their beer and wine and stuff. Interesting.
And Trader Joe's can't. So yeah. And like Walmart can't. So that is like the big thing, is that all of these big box stores are really pushing to have the bill go through. But then right now, basically all the liquor stores are like family owned businesses. So we're just going to hurt them, I guess, in favor of Walmart getting more money.
Yeah. That's I mean, man.
I don't know. I guess it doesn't bother me to go to a liquor store, but I lived in Oklahoma, so, there's that.
Right. You've experienced all the liquor laws that you have to dance around.
Right. Like, this one seems really not problematic to me.
Yeah. Though, as you're talking about that, it makes more and more sense to me. I mean, we're talking about a regulated substance. So it kind of, in a lot of ways, makes sense for it to be handled separately and independently of a place that you go for food and like other things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it's got all sorts of restrictions around it. It's age restricted. It makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah. And you still have to go to a liquor store to buy liquor. They're not changing that law.
Right.
So we'll see. I feel like it's going to be dead in the water, but I don't know what'll happen.
Very interesting. Yeah. Well, if you haven't listened to our liquor law episode, now's the time.
It was a fan favorite in our first season.
Yeah. Maybe sometime we could do some different states. I'd love to look, because I didn't realize that there were only 4 states.
Yeah. Especially, I don't know, Delaware. Delaware's a weird state, man.
Yeah.
I forget about them sometimes, even though they're right next to me.
I was going to say, I feel like people forget Delaware's a state.
Even though they were number one. Number one.
Right.
That's all they got going for them.
They were the first state.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
I know.
Terrible American. Actually, I'm a really good American because I suck at geography. That's what
there you go.
I'm Katie.
And I'm Emily.
We're 2 long-distance best friends with a passion for learning about all the things that make everyday life interesting.
With my PhD in geography
and my master's in library science,
doing deep dives on topics is our idea of a fun time together. We'll share our findings with you on
Researching the Obvious.
Now to completely shift gears.
Yeah. I was going to say, what's the segue now?
Games.
Cards.
But not greeting cards.
Actually, I will say, cards and alcohol do kind of go hand in hand.
That's true.
Hey, casinos, gambling.
Yes, a game to play while having a couple beers with the bros.
Yep.
Brewskis with the broskis.
And poker. Cards.
Yep, pretty much. Yeah, I feel like cards is a bar game.
Saloon.
Yes.
I was just going to say, I think of the old-timey saloon. You know, everyone's sitting around playing cards and drinking their whiskey or their ale.
I don't think that we played cards a lot in college, though. You and I.
No, we didn't. We definitely talked about it, though, because I remember discovering that you knew what Euchre was and you could play it and nobody else knew.
Right. Oh, yeah.
Euchre was.
Yes. We definitely tried to teach some of our friends in New Hampshire how to play Euchre, and it did not go well.
Yep. And that may have also been the first time that I realized that Euchre was a very regional game.
Yeah. I
didn't realize it wasn't something that was as widespread as maybe I thought.
That everyone didn't play Euchre.
Yeah, because that was, I will say, in high school, I had a group of friends who loved to play Euchre and loved to play cards, and that was like one of our main activities. I mean, we would get together and play Euchre for hours.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Or even just family get-togethers and stuff like that. People just play Euchre. And I think I kind of knew that it was more of a Midwest type thing just because my family all played it in Detroit. And then we played it in Rochester, too. So I at least knew that it was, I don't know, more in that part of the world than in New England, but
yeah,
definitely a different culture. We'll talk about Euchre later because I have a lot to say about it.
Yeah.
But what games did we play in college?
It's a good question. We definitely played some Monopoly.
Yes. I mean, Monopoly is such a long game. So we used to put on the original Star Wars trilogy and play Monopoly.
Those are
at the same time.
Yep.
Because, they both last about the same amount of time.
Yeah. And I mean, you don't really have to be paying that close of attention in Monopoly. I mean, if you are, it's not as fun, I think.
Right. It is true. You need another activity to go along with the Monopoly, as long as you trust that everyone's banking correctly.
Right. Right. Yes. On the honor system. So there's that. And then the other one would be, where did that game even come from? Are you for real? With the number 4 in the title. Yes. That game.
Are you for
is like
real?
Seared into my memory. I don't know where it came from.
I think I remember where it came from.
Was it like free or something?
I'm pretty sure we went to the mall and we wanted to get something to play at a party or something. And we went into the KB Toys and it was like on the discount like cheap.
Like clearance.
Yes. And we were like, sure, we'll buy this cheap game because we're college students.
Oh my God.
I think that's where it came from.
What's wrong with us?
It was also such a weird game.
It was like 2 truths and a lie.
Yeah. Like, it was almost basically like a would you rather kind of situation, right?
Mashup. Yeah.
Yeah. Or what's I don't know, the drinking
Never Have
game
I Ever.
Never Have I Ever. Yeah. It was sort of like that too, but a board game.
Yeah, and it had cards as well.
Yeah. Are you for real?
We definitely played it a few times and laughed a lot.
Oh yeah.
But
I think it's because the cards were so dumb.
Yeah.
Because it was just this cheap game that tried to appeal to a mass audience.
Right. And I mean, we're not talking about, I don't think it would have been widely distributed.
No, there's no way.
Oh, I did just find a picture of it. I'm looking. Oh. Now I'm curious where this came from.
Oh, it's like a Milton Bradley Hasbro game.
Oh, wow. Okay, circa 2002.
I mean, that's
and it is. It's by Milton Bradley. Age 9+.
Okay, we must have not looked at that.
But that's what I'm saying is like, what were we thinking?
It requires 3 AA batteries, not included. So it was electronic? I just remember cards.
There was a beeper. And that's how you voted on whether someone's story was real or not.
Oh, yeah, that's right. You had to guess if the person was telling the truth.
Yeah.
Based on these questions.
Yeah.
So bizarre.
It was.
What? Yeah. I don't know. Are you for real?
Yeah. What a little piece of random memorabilia. Like,
yes.
I don't know. This is not like we were sitting around playing Clue or something normal.
No, definitely not. We're playing this really obscure game for apparently 9-year-olds.
Yeah. It was fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We also did a lot of PlayStation, I remember.
Oh, yeah. The American Idol game.
Oh, my
gosh.
The
microphone.
Yes. Every time I hear the song Hungry Like the Wolf, I'm like, oh, no. American Idol karaoke taking me back.
Yeah.
That's the only song I could sing to get points on.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Yep, we did. We had that PlayStation, so we were...
Yeah, and the Dance Dance Revolution, we had the DDR mats.
Yes. Yes.
Good times.
We sure did.
Mm-hmm. That is really aging us, I think. All of these games.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about that for a while, to be honest, and yeah, it is aging us significantly. So, we didn't play cards in college.
No, we did not. But Katie and I definitely bonded over the fact that we both knew Euchre.
Yes. Yep, I do.
We could play with no one.
Yes, correct. Yeah, so we often talked about playing Euchre, but never did. Because no one knew how to play it.
Yep.
So, but I will say since then, when Richard and I come to visit you guys, we always play Euchre.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Like the 4 of us, like we always get a few games of Euchre in.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And when my parents come to visit, we usually play.
Mm-hmm.
If I am ever in a space where there are 4 people,
it's
Euchre,
like, let's play some Euchre. Let's play. Yeah. It is definitely a go-to card game. And that got us to thinking not only about the geographical uniqueness of Euchre,
Yeah.
But then maybe more broadly, what about just playing cards in general and card games in general?
Because as soon as I started researching Euchre, I discovered that I actually know nothing about playing cards and where they come from.
Me either. And something I honestly had not thought about at all. But I mean, they had to start somewhere and they had to evolve somehow. And I think it's one of those everyday things you kind of take for granted if you're not really thinking about how did this come to be and why are we playing this game?
Right. And cards are definitely a ubiquitous thing that just sort of exists.
Right.
Like everyone probably has a pack of cards in their house, right?
Yep, I would think so. They're definitely going to be in your Airbnb that you rent or whatever.
Right. They might be missing some cards, but...
Yes, you can go into a pharmacy, any corner store and buy a pack of cards.
It's true.
Anyway, so yes, playing cards end up being fascinating. Little rabbit hole to travel down.
Yes. They're super old, right?
Yeah, way older than I thought. And something that did not originate in ancient Egypt. Actually... They're even further back than that. They came from ancient China. Yeah, so I looked into just general playing card history, and then we can talk about some specific games. But just playing cards as an object, they believe that a version of playing cards developed kind of alongside or in tandem with dominoes, because dominoes were also developed in ancient China, hence why they have games like Mahjong. So they think that playing cards were kind of a derivative of dominoes, developed during the Tang Dynasty, which would have been between 618 and 906 AD. So somewhere around abouts in there, they think is probably where the first playing cards were developed. Now, for reference, because as I was researching this, I was thinking, playing cards, right? They're printed on paper. So I was thinking, how far back does it go?
Because China invented paper, right? So
yes, right. So I was looking at, for reference, in 50 AD, China was printing things. So perhaps on wood blocks and things like that. And then 105 AD would have been the invention of paper in China. So they had paper and, incidentally, paper money way before the Western world was even thinking about things like that. And so one of the things that I read is that not only were dominoes and cards probably related, and cards might have been developed as an easier or like a lighter version of kind of dominoes, but also that paper money, since card playing and game playing in general was associated with money, cards might have also been a way to, because if you were playing for money, they might have been playing with like literal paper money, and then cards were developed off of that. You see what I'm saying? And like when you were playing a card game and you won the cards, you were literally winning money.
The game was originally played with like the bills, the paper bills, instead of cards, and then they started creating cards to be like in take place, the place of the bills.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So they think it might be like connected a little bit in that way too. So originated in China and then made its way over to India and Persia. And from Persia, then down to Egypt during the era of Mamluk control. So basically Arabic people. But what's interesting about that is that that's primarily how they got to Europe. So they didn't show up in Europe until the 14th century in Belgium, Germany, Spain. And there are literary references of them being introduced by a Saracen. I think that's how you pronounce it. But it's basically someone who's a Muslim. And so there's references to these Moorish games or cards or things being used. And so that's how they think it kind of came into Europe.
Okay.
So the original Mamluk cards that would eventually evolve into the cards that we know today that kind of became popular in Europe, were suited with coins, cups, swords, and polo sticks, because polo was an aristocratic sport of...
Okay. Like India. And,
Yeah.
Interesting.
It was not popular in England or Europe yet.
Man, Europe sounds super boring before like anything happened with the world trading, right? Like they didn't have spices in their food. They didn't have card games. Did they have sports? I mean,
yeah. Cards wholly from Asia and Islamic countries. So yeah, I was like, I don't know, kind of surprised to learn that. I've just never thought about where
I had
playing
no clue.
Cards would have started.
No clue. Yeah, didn't even occur to me to wonder about that.
And so anyway, their decks had 13 cards per suit, numbers 1 through 10, and then a king, lieutenant, and a second lieutenant. And then also, I loved this, but they had text along the top of the cards that were basically little rhyming aphorisms. And so I've got some examples for you.
Ooh.
I am as a garden, the like of which will never exist.
What?
I know, right? With the sword of happiness, I shall redeem a beloved who will afterwards take my life. What?
Wait, these are just like written at the top of the cards?
Yes.
Of the different suits or something?
Yeah. Yeah, just like of the cards themselves. I've got pictures of them too.
Whoa.
O thou who hast possessions, remain happy and thou shalt have a pleasant life. So I don't know, I just like maybe some food for thought while you're playing cards or something.
Okay. Little things. It's like reading the back of the cereal box while you're eating cereal. Right? It's just like little phrases to keep you interested while you're waiting for someone to take their turn.
Yeah. There's also some speculation that travelers and things like this could have brought some earlier playing cards over into the European era. But again, the references that we see in literature and that are actually written down reference these Mamluk era cards.
Oh.
So they came into Belgium, Germany, Spain, Italy, and France, and they kind of evolved from there. Each country, each region kind of had their own little version of these playing cards.
Oh yeah, because I saw that there are different suits in different countries.
Yes, correct.
Which I had no idea about. I just assumed playing cards were the same.
Right? Me either. I thought there was just like one standard deck of playing cards. The epitome of playing cards, right? Yeah. I mean, I know that there are other games that have been developed and stuff that have special decks, like Uno. Yeah. But like when it comes to
like poker.
Playing cards.
Right.
Yeah.
Then all of like a poker deck is a poker deck. But apparently no. Apparently different countries have different suits.
Correct.
So I saw that in the US, we use the French style of cards. So the suits that we have in the US, hearts, spades, clubs, and diamonds, is from the French version of cards.
Yes. So what we think of as standard playing cards are actually the French suits. But the suits evolved over a period of time and were different based on the different countries. So first were generally the Latin or Spanish suit systems, which are actually still used in Spain and Italy. And those would be cups, coins, clubs instead of polo sticks, and swords.
Okay. That's like the tarot deck.
So yes, I'll get to that too.
Yeah. Okay.
And then there was also the Germanic suit systems, which included Swiss suits as well. And they were hearts, bells, acorns, and leaves. So hearts, obviously, the French suits have hearts as well. Bells kind of became tiles. The acorns became the clovers or clubs. And then the leaves are the spades. So the German and French are more closely related than the Spanish.
I saw that the Swiss uses bells and acorns, but also roses and shields.
Oh, okay. Yes.
But I feel like a shield is probably similar to the leaves or the spades.
The spades. Yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
So all sorts of different suits, not just the French ones that we're used to, which again blew my mind. I was like, acorns? Who plays with acorns?
I know. I was like, now I want an acorn deck.
Right?
How whimsical to have leaves and acorns.
The only other thing I guess I'll say on just the general history of cards is that also, as soon as they were introduced in Europe, they also were just as quickly restricted.
Oh, of course.
Often.
Because Europe hates fun. I don't know. Like, Europe hates fun.
Yeah. Yes.
As soon as someone's enjoying themselves, we have to stop it.
Yeah, they're really boring. No, I was thinking the same thing. But basically, cards were associated with gambling or a more lowbrow form of game entertainment.
Sure. Can't let those lowbrow folks have entertainment.
Yes. And in particular, the church viewed them as kind of being closely related to sin and, that they should not be.
Unlike bowling, which bowling you're allowed to use to get rid of your sins.
Right.
Cards.
Right.
No.
Exactly. I even read, too, that Sir Thomas More, in his novel Utopia, which was 1516 or so, he wrote that wine taverns, ale houses, and tippling houses with so many naughty, lewd, and unlawful games as dice, cards, tables, tennis, bowls, and quoits. I don't know what those last ones are. Were the mothers of thieves.
So wait a minute. Time out.
Yeah.
This is now making me think that table tennis, aka ping pong, is that old.
Apparently, it may be. We might have to investigate
go down that rabbit hole later.
We might have to, right? Yeah. But he specifically lists out the games dice, cards, tables, tennis, bowls, and quoits. I don't know what those last two are, but were the mother of thieves. He preferred chess, music, and good conversation. So, chess was acceptable. Cards and dice, not so much. That's what they play in the taverns. It
would be better if reading and conversation were the order of the day.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
I can't. All right. So we had cards for a long time.
Yeah.
And it sounds like people were playing maybe some sort of like gambling games with them.
But obviously cards stuck around, and it's funny because I always thought of, when I read like Victorian era novels, I feel like cards are one of their main things. They are always playing cards in the evenings or in the parlor. And in particular, they mention whist, which I have always kind of been curious about because that seemed to be, it pops up in a lot of those.
Whist. Yes. I feel like every Victorian person is always just playing whist in their drawing room.
Yes, correct. Okay, so even though card playing might have been viewed that way in Europe at the time, it was still highly popular and widely played, especially in France, Italy, and Spain. And I think that because of that, eventually it became rooted in like English culture as well, but it just might have taken a little bit more time.
Sure.
I think that's evidenced by, when I was looking into the game Whist. Yes, which is a very common Victorian era game that's being played, as you said, in everybody's drawing room in the Victorian era. It actually originated or was a derivative of a game called Triumph or French Rough, which originated in the late 15th century in either France or Spain. So a lot of these games that we know today were being developed in France, Spain, Germany in that early card playing time, even though the church didn't like it. So Triumph, they think it originated in France or Spain. It also came to Italy, and in Italy had a similar game with a 5-suited deck called Trionfi, which then got renamed to Tarocchi, which became tarot card. So the game Triumph, because it was so similar to this Italian game, the Italian game kind of branched off, and that's how the tarot deck got started, which I've found fascinating as well.
More on that later in the season, perhaps.
Right? I know. I was like, ooh, yes, this is one of the things I wanted to know more about anyway. So Triumph is only played with the 4 French suits, and one of them is chosen as a trump card. in the Italian game, the fifth suit was the permanent trump suit.
Okay. Yeah.
So that was the main difference. Triumph is a trick-taking card game where you're trying to win tricks and you designate a suit as trump. Also, triomphe, which is the French word for triumph, becomes known in England as French ruff, or more shortly, trump, which is why they're called trump cards.
Because it just came from that game.
Triumph, yes. Trump. It's just a shortened version of triumph in English. So that's why we call trump cards trump. So, like, I guess Triumph could kind of be the original Trump game.
Right, okay.
You know? And then Triumph, or French Ruff, then leads to Whist, which is again, I know, I love
I always want to be like, Whist.
Because it is spelled W-H-I-S-T, for anyone who doesn't know. So
if you weren't catching that drift.
Yes, that's why we need to over pronounce the sounds. Whist.
You have to.
Yes. Yes. And the name was picked because it means quiet, silently attentive.
Oh.
And eventually became the root of the modern word wistful, even though there's no H. And so the idea being that it was, again, a partnership-based trick-taking game, but there's room for strategy as well. Each player has 13 cards. The last card dealt to the dealer establishes trump, and then you must follow suit if possible. And if you don't have the suit, then you can trump. So this is probably sounding familiar to a lot of other trump and trick-taking games.
Mm-hmm.
And then the partners that capture the most tricks scores 1 point per odd trick over 6 tricks. So the scoring system's real bizarre to me. So in the 19th century, Whist was the most popular card game, and it was considered an intellectual card game of the Western world, especially in England.
Oh, yes, the intellectual games. That's when, stuff becomes mainstream and not just part of the riffraff, is when the intellectuals and ruling class decide that they want to play it.
Yes. Yep, pretty much. That's where Whist comes from. And in turn, a lot of other Trump-based and trick-taking card games that especially, become popular in England and then in turn America as well.
Yeah, that's crazy because this whole journey started when I started looking into Euchre, and then I was interested in a couple other games that I'll talk about, but every game I started looking into was basically like, this game is derived from Whist. And so I was like, oh, well, good thing Katie researched some stuff about Whist, because apparently every card game that I was interested in just comes from Whist.
And in turn, Triumph.
Right. I will talk about Euchre because I think there's a lot of interesting things that I didn't even realize about Euchre when I started looking into it.
Yes.
I know that it's a very regional game in the United States, and so we may have some listeners who don't even know what we're talking about when we talk about Euchre. But at one point in time, which I'll get to, it was the most popular card game in the US.
Really?
Yes.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So Euchre, basically, they think it came to the United States from German immigrants.
Okay.
Because there's a card game historian who traced the origin of it back to a game called Euchre, which is, it's Juckerspiel. So it's a German word, Euchrespiel. And that was a game that became popular in parts of Europe during the Napoleonic era. So this is the same time frame that you're talking about that Triumph would have become a popular game in France.
Yep.
So this was basically a game that was developed in the Alsace region of like France and Germany. So sort of on that border zone area.
Okay.
And it's also a trick-taking game. So it probably would have derived itself from Triumph and Whist in that French-German kind of era. And so then Euchrespiel was brought from German immigrants to the United States during the early 1800s, that big sort of wave of German immigrants that came over. And the word euchre is an Americanized version of the word euchre from Euchrespiel. So that's where we get the word euchre.
Yep.
It doesn't really mean anything. It just is from the Euchrespiel game. They also believe that the word bower, so in the game Euchre, you have what's called the right and the left bower, and these are the jacks of the same color. And so depending on which suit is trump, both of the jacks of that color are the bowers. They think the word bower comes from the German word, probably also pronounced bower, but B-A-U-E-R as opposed to B-O-W-E-R, which means farmer or peasant. And so the jacks in like the German deck would have been the farmers. And so what's interesting is that when you think of the symbolism of this, it's like German immigrants coming to the United States basically to become farmers, but then playing a card game that's essentially inverting the hierarchy of the cards and making the farmer card become the most powerful card in the game.
Above the king and the queen.
Right. I know. So like the symbolism of this game is like really fascinating if you think about it. So anyway, so it literally puts the farmer at the top in the game of euchre.
Wow. That's so interesting.
Right? I thought so. But so in the 1800s, it became one of the most popular card games in America, largely because we had so many German immigrants coming over at that time and bringing that game with them. The earliest references to euchre in the US are from 1829. It spread throughout frontier towns. Mark Twain famously noted several instances of euchre playing in a couple of different books. So he wrote about it being played at a camp in Lake Tahoe in one of his books when he was going out to Lake Tahoe. And then in another one of his books, I don't know how familiar people are with Mark Twain's writing, but he wrote a lot of sort of like travel log type books besides just his, Huckleberry Finn.
Novels,
Yeah, novels, right. He wrote a lot of travel type books, which are really interesting. But one of his books was chronicling a trip that he took on a boat to Hawaii. And
oh, wow.
I really enjoyed this line because he noticed a group of people playing euchre who played basically the whole trip. And he writes, "They played euchre in the smoking room day and night, drank astonishing quantities of raw whiskey without being in the least affected by it, and were the happiest people I think I ever saw." And to me, that just basically sums up anyone from Michigan or Wisconsin playing euchre.
Right? Yep. Yeah, it does. It's, it fits.
I was like, that tracks. They were playing nonstop while drinking nonstop and were super happy the entire time.
Yeah.
But euchre became really popular. Like I said, it was one of the most popular games in the US. One of the reasons is because it became a favorite way to have fundraisers. So a lot of community groups would organize really large euchre tournaments as a way to fund different community activities.
Oh, I read that whist is used for whist drives in England too.
Oh, okay.
Which is another fundraising. Yeah.
This one I thought was nuts because people would buy into these massive euchre tournaments to raise money. In 1898, in New York City, was held possibly one of the largest euchre tournaments ever. 3,000 people bought into the euchre tournament to raise money for St. John's Hospital in New York City.
Okay.
Yeah. 3,000 people, though. Can you imagine organizing a euchre tournament with 3,000 people?
No, that's a lot.
So it became really popular, but then basically it ended up getting superseded by bridge. So bridge came in the late 1800s, early 1900s, and essentially just sort of took over. And so by the 1940s, so we're talking, 1898, we have massive euchre tournaments, right? By the 1940s, it's estimated that 44% of the country played bridge. So bridge is like becoming super popular. So by the 1940s, like almost half the country is playing bridge. And then what's crazy is euchre died out so much that there was a survey conducted in 1992 by a US playing card company that reported only 9% of people in the US were playing euchre still.
Wow. That's tiny.
Yeah, it's really small. But yeah, so euchre essentially is played in what's called the euchre belt. And it's basically, people call euchre a Midwest game, but I prefer to think of euchre as a Great Lakes game because there's lots of places in the Midwest that people say are in the Midwest that don't play euchre.
Right.
Iowa doesn't play euchre. Minnesota doesn't play euchre. And even I would argue...
What about Kansas? Do you know Kansas?
No, they don't play euchre. Definitely not. And I would argue that parts of Illinois outside of Chicago probably aren't really playing euchre. So the places that you could find euchre are essentially mid Great Lakes area. So basically Rochester, New York, Buffalo, New York, parts of Pennsylvania. I have a friend from Pittsburgh who confirmed with me that they play euchre in Pittsburgh. But then I have a friend who lives more central Pennsylvania around Altoona, which, you know, I always give her a hard time about the pizza, but
yeah, their gross pizza.
Yeah, but she said that she's never heard of euchre before, ever. Like, being from Altoona. So basically like Western Pennsylvania. And then, Ohio, Michigan, Indiana, Wisconsin. This is where euchre is played. When I lived in Washington, D.C., I was part of a euchre club. And so Kevin and I would go and play euchre like every other week with the euchre club. But I think the only reason the euchre club existed in Washington, D.C. is because Washington, D.C. is a city of transplants. And so everyone in the euchre club
where
was
were people from?
They were from Michigan and Indiana that had moved to D.C. and, looking for a community. But so euchre is basically only in these states that border the Great Lakes, essentially. And Canada. I found out that places like in Ontario, again, on that Great Lakes area, are playing euchre too. But what I think is interesting about euchre is there's a ton of different variations. So that's why I'm not going to get into the rules, because everyone has house rules about euchre. Right. I mean, there's some basic rules where it's a trick playing, like a trick taking game, and you have trump. But there's a lot of different house rules, and those rules also depend on what state you live in.
Yeah.
Because there are certain terms that I hadn't heard of playing euchre in Rochester that I know you taught me.
Right.
Like, I had never heard of farmer's hand.
Yeah. Yep.
Or being in the barn. We definitely did not call it that.
Yeah.
In Rochester. So there's definitely some things that I didn't know. And then the scoring system is also different depending on where you live.
Oh, that I know too, because I had a friend whose parents were from Michigan, and he liked to use twos and threes.
He used twos. What?
Yeah, he used twos and threes.
That's wild. The only place I know of that uses twos and threes is Rochester.
No, he used twos and threes, and they were from Michigan.
My parents are gonna have their mind blown if they hear that.
Yeah.
No, because
I don't know what part of Michigan. But
as far as I know, the twos and threes are like a Rochester unique thing. And
really?
Yeah, like everyone would give me and Kevin crap at our euchre group because they'd be like, "Oh, you Rochester people with your twos and threes."
Yeah.
And then what I heard is that Michigan uses fives.
Oh,
2 5s, and then pretty much the other states use 4s and 6s.
Yeah. So I guess too, we should maybe clarify a little bit for anyone who has never played euchre that the goal is to get to a score of 10, and so to keep score, you use a set of scorecards, and I would say most people would use a 4 and a 6 as a scorecard that you track up to your 10 points. And then what we're talking about is either the 2 5s or a 2 and a 3, which add up to 5, but then you cross the cards to add an additional 5 points. So if the cards are crossed, one little suit of the 2 card is showing, then you have 6 points, right?
Yes.
So it's just a way to keep score as you play the game. And the earlier reference to being in the barn, when you reach 9, you turn both cards over next to each other. So, and what I was told or what I was taught was that when they are turned over and next to each other like that, they kind of look like barn doors. So they say you're in the barn because you've almost won and you've turned the cards over. So they're barn doors.
I think that just comes from, I don't know, more the more rural part of the Great Lakes. Because in Rochester, we were definitely not talking about barns and milking cows. We were not.
Yeah. So, I mean, and for all I know, I mean, maybe my friends had very specific, I don't know where they learned it, right? Like, these are things that get passed from person to person that, like, who knows? Maybe they made it up just to make me look like an idiot. I don't know.
Well, and what is actually interesting that I was going to bring up is when I was doing a lot of this research about Euchre, and I'm going to talk about Spades in a minute because it has a very similar story, I think, is that it's very difficult to find standardized research about the regions of Euchre and the regional rules and some of these other terms and nuances because it is a very colloquial game and it hasn't been codified into research. So a lot of my research was in things like Reddit threads that were talking about how do you play Euchre, how do you
anecdotal
keep score, or
right?
Or things like local memoir pieces that local newspapers or something would pick up, and they are sharing their stories about playing Euchre and who taught them and how they learned. And it is very much rooted in this cultural area of the Great Lakes because people are learning it from their family members or their friends, and they're keeping that sort of community together by playing when they get together with their family or playing at their local community group, their church or their community center or whatever, or like me playing with a bunch of other transplants in Washington, D.C., trying to find community, right? So it is a game that has taken on this cultural aspect to it where it becomes ingrained as something that is just passed down over and over, and along with these other regional terminology. Like if you walk to anyone in Michigan and say like pass on a bow or lose for an hour, like they're gonna know what you're talking about, but people outside of Michigan probably won't know what you're talking about, right?
Right.
Kevin has a shirt that I got him that says I never pass on a bower.
No one knows
what that is referencing, right?
Yeah. Which I think is one of my favorite things about Euchre is I don't know other games that, like you said, flip the hierarchy of the face cards like that. I think that's kind of what makes it so unique. And I think it's also why people, I don't know, if they're not familiar with it,
a hard time. Figuring it out. Also, what's interesting about Euchre that I learned is that Euchre is the reason why modern card decks were first packaged with jokers.
What? The Joker didn't exist before that?
Yeah. So, I mean, it did. It just wasn't common that all decks of cards were packaged with jokers. But in some variations of Euchre, the jokers were the bowers.
Wow.
They were the ultimate trump card.
Okay.
And so some variations of Euchre required the use of the joker. And so card decks started being packaged with joker cards because this game was so popular in the US.
I wonder if it also caught on in the US or became so popular because, like you were talking about with the bower and the flipping of the court hierarchy and the court being a very English, like an English thing that Americans had left behind. I don't know. That just makes me think
no kings.
Even more. Maybe, I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm thinking too deeply into it, but that's like really interesting.
I think there's a lot of symbolism there that you could really look into, especially the fact that it still maintains its presence in this Rust Belt, very working class area of the US. Yeah. So I do think that's interesting. I also want to talk about Spades because I think Spades has a very similar story to Euchre in some ways. And I didn't necessarily realize that until I started researching it, because I have played spades, but it just wasn't a big part of my repertoire. And then when I lived in DC and we were part of the Euchre club, I also noticed that there were a lot of spades clubs in DC. And I thought that was interesting. But what I realized is that it's basically Euchre is to the Great Lakes as spades is to the Black community.
Really?
Yes. So spades is a little interesting. The history of the game's a little more convoluted as to where it came from, because in order to understand where spades came from, you first have to understand bid whist.
Yes.
Yes. So bid whist is basically an offshoot of whist, but a version where you're basically bidding on how many tricks you're going to be able to take. And so bid whist was a game that was played by enslaved people in the South during the sort of like Civil War era. Essentially, like games that were popular at the time in the South were whist, as one does.
Yes.
And then also an early version of bridge. It wasn't bridge as we know it today. It was basically a version of bridge that had origins in Turkey, which makes sense now that I know the history of playing cards, that it was a Turkish game that was popular. But so anyway, so we had bid whist, which essentially kind of whist and this early Turkish bridge game, and was popular by enslaved people. And then following the Civil War, we had all of these African Americans who needed to be employed. And at that time, the Pullman Car Company, which was a railroad car company for passenger rail, was growing. And so the Pullman Car Company decided that it made sense to offer jobs as like bellhops and porters on their train cars to former slaves. And so basically this profession became known as the Pullman porters. They take on this role in the early Black community as having some of the first sort of middle class type of jobs that many former slaves could have. And so they lived on the trains, they traveled around the country on the trains, and they all played bid whist. So they spread bid whist throughout the whole country. And so now when you're playing bid whist, there's a lot of terminology that's actually related to trains. If you take it all and win everything, it says I'm running a Boston, because it basically means you win the entire train line as a winner.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So there's a lot of stuff kind of mixed up with this like Pullman Porter mythos and bid whist and the Black community. So anyway, bid whist is getting spread around the country. Then in the 1930s in Cincinnati, a group of college kids create the game Spades, basically out of a bid whist. So they take
group of college kids?
Yes. I don't know. It was like in the college dorms, right? Yeah. Are creating the game Spades. And that game becomes popular because soldiers took it with them to World War II. And basically all of the soldiers start playing Spades as this really popular game. And then they bring it back to the US. And it's now in the US still today, Spades is the most popular online card game and the most popular trick-taking game in the United States.
Wow.
I know. It's like right behind poker.
Wow, I would not have guessed that.
Yes. And it's, like I said, especially popular in the Black community. I read a really good article that I'll link, but it was basically an article where someone did this ethnographic research about Spades and the Black community and interviewed a lot of people to talk about their experiences playing Spades and growing up playing Spades. And it's very similar, I think, to our experience with Euchre, where their grandparents were playing Spades and they taught them at a family function, and their community was playing Spades at like community events. And, you know, everyone's just always playing Spades in some sort of capacity at any kind of get together or anything like that, and passed down throughout families and at community functions. And similarly to Euchre, there's huge tournaments for spades that are being used as fundraisers. So I thought that was kind of just interesting because I have played it before, but only like once or twice.
So the idea being too that I guess then spades is kind of this offshoot of bid whist, which only was kind of spread throughout the country because of the Pullman porters.
Yeah.
Which then led to this, I guess, kind of in a roundabout way.
Yeah. The origins of spades are a little murky. Basically, everyone agrees that it was created in the college dorms in Cincinnati.
Okay. That's it, though. That's all we know.
That's all we know. And then it was spread in World War II.
Yeah.
And so spades became really popular in military circles, but also especially in the Black community because of the Pullman porters, and like bid whist started being popular in the Black community too.
Yeah. Interesting. Mm-hmm. Very interesting. I am just like fascinated by this whole idea of card games being these little cultural representations. Yes. And also almost like an oral history, but not oral.
Yes.
Being like this way of transmitting culture that's very unique.
Yes. I feel like I am obsessed with it, and I now want to, I don't know, look more into it from an ethnographic standpoint, because I do think sometimes Americans, I think like US citizens, Americans get kind of stuck on this idea of like, what is our culture, I think, because it is so varied, and the US is such a, you know, melting pot of all different things. But then when you look at stuff like this, where it's like, no, this is very specific. You grew up in a household in the Great Lakes and everyone played euchre, and as soon as you leave the Great Lakes, no one knows what you are talking about. Like, you know, or spades even too with the Black community. Like that's I feel like a unique experience that's important to growing up and being a part of that community, where you have all these memories and fond thoughts about these activities that are going on around you every day that makes you who you are, you know?
Yeah. Well, and just also, I think the idea around the rules being unique and passed from person to person, that it's like the games are representations of these family or cultural units based on how they played the game and what they choose to teach the you know, subsequent generations. Like that's also a very interesting dynamic of the way the game evolves, and also can be very specific to one group of people or one geographic location, just because that's how the people chose to play it and pass it on. So interesting.
Yeah, I know. I really want to map it, obviously, but it's so hard. Doing the research was really hard to find solid information. I mean, one, it's card games, so unfortunately stuff that people don't think is important, they don't really do research on. So, you know, and a lot of that ends up being these sort of daily cultural things. People don't dig into it because it's not highbrow, important activities, right? It's just daily life.
Yeah.
But I would love to be able to map out some of these different regionalizations of these card games and stuff, because I think, I don't know, it's fascinating to me.
Well, and on that note too, even just learning more about in general where playing cards came from and how they kind of disseminated through Europe. I'd love to know more about other countries and the card games that they play, and what's unique to them and what became popular or didn't. Or because I also read, you mentioned bridge superseding euchre. Bridge also superseded whist in England. Like whist was the game everyone was playing, and then it was bridge. And so I don't know what happened with bridge, but like apparently bridge was just the game.
Yes. And I can tell you briefly, because I tried to look up bridge, because I was like, same, why is bridge the thing?
Why is this so great?
Yes. So all I will say, without getting too convoluted, because it was a lot and we cannot cover it in this podcast episode, the Vanderbilts were bridge players, and they made basically the version of bridge that's played right now was developed by a Vanderbilt.
Follow the money.
Yeah. I mean, I guess if you have enough like influence, right? That's what you're influencing on.
So it was developed in America then?
The version contact bridge, which is the version of bridge we play. But the reason why I didn't go down the rabbit hole is because there's like 80 million versions of bridge.
Okay. So yeah. So it could have been a little different over in England too, but.
And I will say really quick too, I also looked up hearts because I play hearts with my dad. Hearts is also a derivative of whist, but what is interesting is that it's sort of an opposite because it's an anti-trick game in that you don't want the tricks. So it's like they took whist and flipped it on its head where it's like you don't want that.
Yes. Yep.
And the version that we play in the US of hearts that we call hearts is actually not the real version of hearts.
What?
The version that we play in the US is known as American Hearts or Black Lady because we use the Queen of Spades.
Yeah.
And the original version of hearts does not.
What does the original version of hearts use?
They only use the hearts.
Oh, interesting. Okay. So that's even a derivative, like an offshoot.
Yes. So
as
like
we know it.
Even though we just call it hearts, we're actually not playing hearts in the US.
Yeah.
We're playing
in its original
version.
Form. Yeah, version of
We're playing
hearts.
A version of hearts.
Which, again, brings me back to how crazy it is, how many different versions of these games are and how they got disseminated and passed down. But then, I was thinking too before we started recording, other than Euchre, I probably don't play a ton of cards. And I was thinking, like, some of these games sound really interesting. Like, I'd love to play some of these games. And then I was like, but when's the last time that you sat down and tried to learn a card game from like reading a booklet, right? Like you learn it because someone says like, let's play this and I'll teach you how.
Right.
And so then I was thinking like, I only know how to play what other people have taught me. Like I've never tried to play another game that I haven't been taught by someone. And tried to learn. And then who would I play with? Like, I'd have to also find other people who wanted to learn it, I guess, if I wanted to play some of these games. But, like, that's kind of crazy to think about, too. Like, I never thought about that aspect of cards. It's not like a board game where you open up the instruction booklet and learn how to play it with everyone.
Yeah. And I think it's that's what makes it sort of novel when you are somewhere and you find someone that plays the same game as you, right? Because someone taught you how to play spades too. So now we're in this like little club that knows how to play this one game or something like that. Right?
Euchre. Yes, it's just like I'm fascinated. This is just very I did not expect to be this interested in playing cards, I'm gonna be honest.
Yeah, I know. I think it is. I don't know. The cultural aspect of it is just really like blowing my mind, I think. Thinking about how much that kind of individual identity a little bit is tied up into the activities that you do.
And how you kind of make them your own too, right? Because I mean, we get all of these different versions of these games because someone thought like, let's play it this way instead.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it's weird to think that, I don't know, someone just developed a new card game and then it became
right. Yeah. It's just whether it was trending or not.
Right.
I have to say too, there were several like paths that I almost went down that I couldn't because I just knew it would like take too long, but also cards as artwork and the way that the artwork on the cards evolved for the court cards and all those kind of things is really fascinating. Who knows? Maybe we can do a follow-up sometime. But just so many aspects of playing cards that I just never really thought to dive into. And and all because we were just talking about like how we both play Euchre.
Yeah. If there's any card games that you play or that your family plays, definitely let us know because I'm really interested if there are more of these sort of community games that are, I don't know, helping to build particular groups of culture and stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Or that are like special to you and that you know, associate with a certain group of people that you know, or your family or whatever. I know it makes me think too. We play in our family. We grew up playing when we would go on our vacations to Maine and visit my aunt and uncle. We would play this game called 5 Crowns.
Oh, yes.
Which is a card game, but I mean, it's a non-standard deck of cards, so it's kind of like a special card game. Right? I have this very special place in my heart for that game because just as kids, we grew up playing it with my cousins, and like it's just like many nights spent around the table after dinner, playing these games and getting really into it. So yeah, I also think it's really interesting and fun to think about that role that games play in our like family lives and our social lives and things like that, and what they mean to us. And so, yeah, I'd love to hear if people have more to share about that.
Yeah, there's something very social, I think, about cards and playing card games that you're just always kind of talking while you're playing it. And it makes...
More so than board games, right? Am I right? Like more so than... when you play a board game with people.
I would agree with that. Because you're not talking so much about you can't talk about the game when it's a card game, right? Like it's no table talk. So
yes.
I don't know. You're talking about other stuff.
That's got to be one of the universal rules, no matter where you are. No table talk.
Yeah. No table talk.
Yes.
Thank you for listening to Researching the Obvious. To learn more fun facts about everything that we're researching, follow us on Instagram at Researching the Obvious Pod, all one word. You can also follow us on Spotify, Amazon Music, or wherever you get your podcasts. If you know someone that you think would enjoy listening to all of our findings, please feel free to share or give us a review. Researching the Obvious is written, produced, edited, and hosted by Emily Fekete and Katie Nakanishi. Tune in next time to hear more obvious facts.